Wow, we have gotten through sub-element T1. Do you have any questions at all?
No, not yet.
Okay. Do you need to take a quick break here before we go on into T2?
Okay.
You're good to go, or do you want to take a break?
I'll take a break.
Okay. Let's take 2 or 3 minutes and come back. Here we go. Okay. Have any questions come to mind on any of the T1 stuff before we continue here?
No, no questions.
Okay. We'll go ahead and proceed. And Joe had some suggestions for me. I guess the screen's a little slower coming up than what I'm seeing here on mine, so I'll pause after the screen comes up before I begin talking about it. Okay, T2A, station operation, choosing an operating frequency, calling another station, test transmission, use of minimum power, frequency use, and band plans. What's the most common repeater frequency offset in the 2-meter band? We mentioned that already. It is plus or minus 600 kilohertz. And remember, that's the difference between the transmit and the receive frequency of the repeater. What's the national calling frequency for FM simplex operations in the 70 centimeter band? I've put the distractors over here for you. This is the correct answer, 446.000. These two frequencies are in the 2-meter band, so they are not in the 70 centimeter band. This one is in the 70 centimeter band, but it's down at the bottom end where we don't do FM. So that makes this one. What's a common repeater frequency offset in the 70 centimeter band? Up there in the 70 centimeter band, it's plus or minus 5 megahertz is the repeater offset frequency. What's an appropriate way to call another station on a repeater if you know the other station's call sign? You say the other station's call sign and then identify with your own. So if I were calling my wife, who is WH7WT, I would just say WH7WT, this is AH6I, over. And but I say her call sign first because the other station, the guy may be sitting there with his feet on the desk or something like that, half asleep. And if you say your call sign and then his, he's going to hear his and he won't know who you are. So if you say his first, that gives him a chance to know that he needs to pay attention, and then you say your call sign. So you say your call sign and then identify, or you say his call sign, then identify with your own call sign. Did I mess that up so bad you couldn't understand it, or did you figure it out?
I figured it out.
Okay, good. What should you transmit when responding for a call of CW? CW is what we call a procedural call, or a procedural something. Anyway, and what it means is I want to talk to any station. CQ means, if you think of it as seek, S-E-E-K, U, Y-O-U, that kind of explains that I'm seeking to talk to another station, and it means you'll talk to anybody. So when you hear somebody calling CQ, you say his call sign and then follow it with your own call sign, same as for this question up here. What must an operator do when making on-air transmissions to test equipment or antennas? Be sure you transmit your identification anytime that you transmit on the air. It's something that some people fail to do, but and they'll also key up a repeater just to see if they can get it or not identify who they are. But that's an illegal transmission if you haven't identified it. It's fairly common, but it's not legal. Which of the following is true when making a test transmission? Station identification is required at least every 10 minutes during the test and at the end. Okay, just like with any other identification requirement for us. And again, it's something that people sometimes fail to do when they're doing testing, but it's important to do it. What's the meaning of the procedural signal CQ? It means calling any station. What brief statement is often used in place of CQ to indicate that you're listening on a repeater? Repeater communications are usually very clear and as good as a telephone call, or even better. And so that you don't need to do the CQ thing like we do on the high frequencies. all you need to do on a repeater is say your call sign, and if somebody wants to talk to you, they'll come back. If they hear you and want to talk to you, they'll come back to you if you just say your call sign on the repeater. What is a band plan beyond the privileges established by the FCC? There are two things going on here. The FCC gives us the band and gives us these various kinds of operations we can do within the band. And I picked 10 meters here because it's nice and complicated. And it shows here that extra classes have these privileges, and advanced class have these privileges, and general class have these privileges, and novice, and all, which is an obsolete license class, but also technicians have these privileges here. Okay? And if we look at this, we see that the red area is for CW, Morse code, and you can also do data modes there, keyboard modes like radio teletype and some other data modes or keyboard modes in that area. Okay? In the green, where technicians are allowed to operate, we can do CW, Morse code, or we can do single sideband telephone, voice. Okay? And then in the blue area, we can do CW or phone or image transmissions like slow scan television or something like that in the blue area there. So these are the FCC rules right here, the colored bands. Now what the amateur community has done is to take that and further break it down into different uses, and this is the voluntary band plan over here. Okay, and down in here we have various CW things. These are beacons that we have for to hear if, for instance, up on Oahu at the Brigham Young University campus at Laie, they have a beacon up there that transmits, and people can listen for it to hear if there's communications between wherever they happen to be in Hawaii. If they can hear the beacon, then they know they can operate to Hawaii. So we have a beacon up there. And that here's a frequency range for beacons on the 10-meter band. Here's a teletype frequency that's commonly used. Here are some data and teletype frequencies here. So they split it up so people's operations don't interfere with each other. Here's a frequency that's set aside for QRP, which is low power. A lot of guys get on and they like to operate real low power, maybe 5 watts or 1 watt or even less of transmitter power to see just what they can do with that. So here's a frequency that's been set aside for that. DX is an abbreviation for distance. And here's a frequency that's been set aside for making communications with distant stations. Okay. Up in here we have AM voice. This set aside for AM voice. Here we have a portion that's been set aside for satellite downlinks. Here we have a portion that's been set aside for repeaters, the repeater inputs and the repeater outputs. So this is the voluntary band plan on this side. It is voluntary, but if you are causing interference and not adhering to the band plan, then there can be consequences for it. So yeah, it is voluntary, but it's also a good thing to follow. Any questions on that?
No.
Okay.
Good.
Okay, what are the FCC rules regarding power levels used in the amateur bands? This is probably the most violated of all the regulations. It says an amateur must use the minimum transmitter power necessary to carry out the desired communication. In some cases, we just don't pay much attention to what minimum power would do it. We just squeeze the microphone button and talk. Some of our radios don't have adjustable power, and that can be another consideration. But the rule is you use minimum power to carry out the desired communication. If I can talk to the repeater with 1 watt, I shouldn't be using 50 watts to do it.